Okay then. So we're looking at how the maths classroom promotes and supports learning. And this first slide here just tells you a little bit about ourselves, who we are, and about our network partners as well. So we're a small to medium-sized college in the Western Lake District, along with Plymouth, I think one of the network partners that was furthest away from everybody. And I don't think anybody actually even got up here, did they? And our 4 partners are Carlisle, Furness, Kendal, Lancaster and Morecambe College, and they all worked with us very, very closely on this research project. What we started with was the theme of motivation and engagement, and looking at qualitative and quantitative data, which I heard Lead saying earlier that they were doing, and how we can use this to adjust pedagogical approaches. What we needed to do, though, was to narrow that down into a very focused research question. So before we could do that, we had to do a little bit of preparatory work. So we took quite a bit of qualitative and quantitative data from our learners via questionnaires. We collected some questionnaires from all the learners. We harangued them. We did online questionnaires. Our maths team got loads and loads of data from them all. And I don't think these transitions are working now. If you can click on that, Lisa, so that we can move on to the next points, that would be really helpful. Okay, so what we did was we devised a questionnaire which all our 5 colleges used, and that asked loads and loads of different questions, which I actually read some of the questions out on the pre-recorded presentation, but I don't have them now. But it was lots of things around how important is it on a scale of 1 to 10 for you to achieve a grade 4? How important is it who your teacher is? How important is it for your friends to be in the classroom? How many times have you taken GCSE? Loads and loads of data, which we then narrowed down, and we took the main themes out of that and held some focus groups at our colleges with the learners and delved a bit deeper into the things that were coming out. And we asked them lots of different questions there, and fed them pizza and gave them pop and all sorts of things. And when we'd done that, there were a couple of key themes that were coming out there. Lisa, could you click forward onto the next couple of bits of this slide, please? Yeah. So we held a formal network meeting with our 4 main partners as well, Lancaster, Kendal, Furness and Carlisle. And we looked at all the emerging themes. We had a full day at it. And the emerging themes that came out of it, if you look at the bottom 2 points there, were that students want dedicated classrooms that are visually stimulating. And they ranked this above being with their friends, which we were quite surprised about. We thought being with your friends would have been top of their list, but actually it was very far down. Dedicated classrooms, visually stimulating, and little disruption to the teaching environment, because as a lot of you know, in FE colleges, these kids come into school having had 7 supply teachers in 1 year, and consistency is really, really important to them. And also the old self-efficacy, I can't do maths, that was another one that came out. So students' belief in their own abilities was a really, really important part of it. So those were the 2 main themes that came out of all that preparatory work that we did. The initial questionnaire to all the learners, which had about 20 questions on it, the narrowed down focus group questions, our formal network meeting where we brought it all together with the 5 colleges, and those 2 things came out of there. So then we were able to narrow this down a little bit more into a narrower research focus, which if we move on to the next slide, Sandy's going to be able to talk to us about, hopefully now.
So what came from all this data was that we realised that none of our colleges had a dedicated math space. So people were using spare classrooms, etc. So what we decided to do is we came up with 2 research questions, as you can see there. How does a dedicated mathematics classroom environment promote and support learning? And how do learners use visual aids and equipment to develop their mathematical skills? So our first task was for each of the 5 colleges to establish a dedicated math space in a prime position in their college, so not sort of tucked away down by the broom cupboard, for example. None of the colleges had such a space and were teaching maths in various vocational settings. As the lead college in the project, we sourced resources and provided each of our college partners with identical equipment. And we'll go through what this equipment was in the next slide. We then agreed amongst ourselves how we would collect data. And we did this through a series of classic action research data collection methods. We asked each of our action research teachers to keep a tutor's reflective log where their observations were annotated in class, and at the same time it was an opportunity for them to speak to learners on a one-to-one to sort of see how they were feeling and which of these resources they were accessing. At the end of every session, if possible, but sometimes, you know, that didn't happen, but we did our best to do it regularly, learners were asked to complete a checklist at regular intervals to identify what resources they had used and why. And so we got some rich data through the learner voice from week 1 right through the project from all of the colleges. And in fact, from a Lake's perspective, we put the checklist in the back of their maths workbook. So they just got into the habit of filling it in at the end of every session. As colleges, we had a midpoint check when we all got together in a meeting. And this enabled us to make minor step changes to any of the data collection methods we had. And in reality, this actually was just a very small tweak to the learner checklist to make it a little bit easier, because some of the learners were being slightly flippant, shall we say, with what their answers were. And then we had a final questionnaire, which all the colleges did, which we agreed in another meeting and a focus group. And this enabled us to capture all the data, to triangulate any of the evidence we weren't sure about, and to actually get the tutor voice, because that ended up being massively powerful. Okay, so this is over to Anna. This is our action research summative poster.
Right, thank you very much, Sandy, and thank you, Lisa. So what we have here is a more condensed version of our action research report. So this is basically a summarised of our full report. Both this and the action research report obviously are available, as Joss has said, on the Padlets at the end. I'm going to just guide you through what's on here at the moment. And in the top left-hand side, there's a little bit about our demographic, about all of the 5 colleges and the types of students that we have. On the left-hand side in the middle there, and there's a little shout out to Nadra at Carlisle here, because this is, I think she features. This is Carlisle, an example of Carlisle's maths environment, and we had similarly brilliant ones at all our other colleges as well. And in the bottom left-hand corner, there's just a little example there of how we collected data from learners, which Sandy was just telling you about there, on how they were using it. So how they were using the different things in the classrooms. There's some statistics in the middle if you care to look at those. And over on the right-hand side, we've got some examples there of what our teachers, different teachers, had to say about these environments. And the main theme that came out of there was how much it promoted this self-efficacy, how much it promoted learner collaboration, how much it promoted confidence. And again, it's a bit small here, but you'll be able to read the full thing when you have a look at it yourself. And there's some references down there in the bottom right-hand corner. But overall, we saw some really, really significant changes in reluctant learners. And I'm sure any of our teachers from any of our colleges in our 5 networks, so Lakes or any of the other 4 colleges, will be able to back that up there in the chat box as well, that we saw significant changes by learners just having a space where they belonged, and by minimising any disruption to their learning environment, as in change the teachers, etc., during the year. I'm going to move you on now back to Sandy. To the next slide, please, Lisa. What did we learn?
Okay, hello, back again. So you will have opportunity to look at the pie charts and the detailed data on on the Padlet later. I know it was quite hard to see there. So what conclusions did we draw? So at the start of this action research intervention, I've said none of the 5 colleges had a dedicated space for maths. And just to reiterate the 5 colleges, because I appreciate the start of the presentation was a bit challenging. There's Lakes College, Carlisle College, Kendal College, Lancaster and Morecambe College, and Furness College. So just a big thank you to all of them. So we all sourced different pieces of equipment. These were mainly visual representations, so posters, a lot of different posters that were helping, loads and loads of scientific calculators. So what I'd like to do is just go through with you some of the conclusions that we draw. All the colleges observed that a dedicated mathematics environment had a positive impact on the learning of our students. It sent a clear message to students that mathematics is an important subject, meriting its own space alongside other aspects of the curriculum. The environment promoted student confidence, enabling them to progress independently through accessing information from all our different wall displays. We also noticed an increase in student collaboration and mentoring. This was observed as students directed each other to information, leading to further discussion and support with problem solving. So it became a real sort of platform for peer support and mentoring and helping each other, and gave the tutor more time to help with individuals who were experiencing particular problems. The next point seems a bit bizarre really, but it was very powerful. Every single learner was given a calculator. And this led to a significant drop in disruption from mobile phones being used inappropriately. And students appeared to feel more valued, increasing self-esteem, motivation, and engagement. All colleges commented on there being a different atmosphere, where students had responded positively to a dedicated mathematics environment through increased confidence, self-belief, and motivation. And this was massive across all of the colleges. Whilst there were some minor differences in the effectiveness of different resources across our partnership, this will have been influenced by individual tutor styles and preferences, together with learner expectations. But there was no significant differences to require further triangulation of our evidence. Some of the resources we used, for example, bar modelling and number lines, proved less popular with some colleges and deemed inappropriate for the age of the students. And this is where our regular meetings as a network was powerful, because 2 colleges had successfully used the bar modelling equipment, and their experiences were shared with the other colleges in the partnership at our final focus group. And it enabled people to think, oh, okay, I'd not thought of using it that way, so let's have a go and see if it'll work for us. Also, the popularity, or not so popular, of some of the wall displays over others has been influenced by the topics being covered in the scheme of learning at that particular time. So, for example, and I'm just peering across here at a poster on my wall, the times table poster was used massively, but then Pythagoras, which wasn't going to be looked at until later in the terms when our action research had finished, was not accessed, but we were all assuming that that will be accessed more when the need arose. So that's what we found out really. It was very powerful, and on the poster there was some lovely examples of what the teachers had to say in our final focus group. I'll share one here. During this term, I taught 3 times a week in my mathematics space room and the rest of the week in different rooms. I could immediately spot the difference. Students are more engaged, ready to work, quieter, and have a better attitude towards learning. On a personal level, I feel more organised and relaxed when teaching in my mathematics space room, which you know, is just wonderful. So that's what we learned. So I think that's the next slide, please.
I think to chip in there, Sandy, as well, we had one of our teachers, didn't we, who didn't actually teach in a base room.
Yeah.
And I don't know if that was the teacher that you were talking about, but that particular teacher was teaching in different rooms, but they said that they saw a difference when they taught, when they happened to be timetabled in one of our dedicated classrooms. They saw a difference in that class, in those learners and in that behaviour. So they were actually comparing it with teaching those learners in different classrooms, weren't they? So that was a significant thing.
Yeah, and one other tutor from one of the other colleges, I remember saying that one of her students in health and social care had asked her why they now had to come to a maths room, and there was all maths things on the wall, and the tutor said, well, what is it you see here? She said, oh, well, it's not health and social care visuals on the wall, is it? It's maths. And the teacher said, so think a minute, what does that tell you? And the student said, it's telling me that maths is important to me as health and social care. So I thought that was lovely. Yeah.
I think that was that you, Karen, I think at Finesse, I think?
Yeah, can't remember, but I thought that was brilliant.
I'm sure it was Finesse College anyway, yeah.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, it was, Anna.
Yeah, thought it was.
Okay, so next slide, please. I think we're on to any questions, but I hope our ad-libbing has given you a flavour of what we've been doing.